Tell me, are you ready to find your weird way? Weird was a concept that was spoken of long ago. It meant fate, it meant destiny, it meant your path in life. I'm your host, Dean Bentley, and I am here to explore how you can connect to your own path in life, to know the essence of your own soul, to connect to that single spark that lives within the deepest recesses of your being that says, "This is why I am here," to go beyond the limitations, the constrictions of the modern world, and open you to the possibilities and the potentiality of what is possible within this world. Join me as we dive deep on the Wyrd Way. Oh, hello, Weird Wayers. I am back. It has been a few weeks since I have been on the mic. Life has got me away from here. I was down in Melbourne recently. I drove down here from Tamborine, which was about a 40-hour drive. So there was 2 weeks out for there. And then a few things in life had kept me from the podcast. And I can feel that I am nervous coming back on. I'm like, oh, I want to tell the stories and make sure everything is dropped in and received. And I'm like, cool. Let's see what we have today. So the reason I was down in Melbourne is that I was speaking at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival. For the first time, I spoke on the main stage. It was incredible. I'm not sure how many people were there for it. I'd say between 50 to 80 people, and it was an incredible time. I got a lot of great feedback, and a lot of people shared with what landed for them. I was there promoting the retreat Raw, which is coming up in August, which is a primal men's embodiment retreat here on the Gold Coast hinterland, where for over 4 days, so we get there Friday afternoon and we leave Monday morning. I'll be guiding men to strip back a few of the layers that they can wear to protect themselves and come into a more authentic expression of who they are, sharing in brotherhood, being guided to drop beneath some of the noise and come back into connection with who they truly are. So that is happening in August. So before I dive in, if there's anyone who wants to join me for that, there are still spots available and it's going to be a really epic time. It's a very affordable retreat. It was one of the things I was really passionate about creating this is I wanted to make this accessible for most men while including an incredible amount of depth. So if you're wondering how to jump into this work, if you're wanting to be a part of it, this is something that I cannot recommend enough. It is the first retreat of this kind I've ran, so it's going to be incredible. There's going to be some beautiful and powerful and tender men there, and we're going to connect over those 4 days. So if you're interested in being a part of that, go into the show notes and check that out. I'll share some more in that. And if you've got questions, send it my way. Like I said, this is an incredible opportunity to be a part of. And that was why I was down in Melbourne because I really wanted to promote this and share this and also continue to cultivate my own skills and speaker ability. That has been something that has been a continuous journey for me. And that's something I want to dive into today because after my speech, presentation, I guess I would call it, is there was a lot of conversations I had with various people from that were there of like, hey, how did you get here? How did you find yourself on stage? And if I'm honest, this isn't a space I imagine myself in. If you asked me a few years ago if I was going to be speaking on stages and sharing my message and sharing what I'm about, I would have been like, nah, that is not where I want to be. That terrifies me and I don't want to be there. But when I was down in Melbourne, it was something I absolutely loved. I loved working with the crowd. I loved engaging, energizing, and activating the space. I loved the level of community and the connectedness that comes from speaking on stage because in this era of a lot of online, this is something that I can surely miss. So being able to be there with the people was really, really incredible. And so that's been such a journey on me to get to where I am today, where I'm actually speaking on multiple stages a year and sharing my work, facilitating workshops and whatnot. And so I'm not surprised by this question of people asking, hey, how did you get here? And that's what I want to share on today because it hasn't been a linear process. There hasn't been a step one, a step two, a step three. I don't exactly operate that way when I'm creating, when I'm following my own path. And I just want to be clear that this for me is my own evolution. This is why I walk the path that I do. There is an element where that I do want to serve. I do want to share what I am here to share with other people. And I also know that is a continuation of my own growth, my own evolution, because that's what I believe I am here for deeply. I'm here to serve others, support others, and help them grow. And it's something I continue to do in these spaces. And I know in that I grow and evolve too. Because if you were to tell me, you've got to feel comfortable on stage. You've got to feel playful, excited. You got to know how to engage people, bring it. You even got to pitch on stage. I would have been like, "Oh, that is scary." And there's an element where I was afraid. Yes, and I found the juice of aliveness in that. And that's something I'm really passionate about of how I can go beyond my own boundaries and my own limitations where I'm like, oh, I can't do that or I'm afraid of that, and learn to play with those edges so I can be more engaged with life. So that has always been the path for me, and it's something I encourage others as well. It's like if you see that there's a pathway there, or you see someone and you're like, oh, I want to do that one day, begin to follow that. Begin to just have intent towards that because maybe the path isn't clear. It's not going to be direct. It's not going to be this and then this, but there is going to be an opening for you when you begin to move in that direction. And that's what I have done. So I've been reflecting a lot this year on my coaching and mentoring journey, and I've been in this game for about 6 years now. I've been mentoring in different capacities for 6 years. This is, I believe, the third year of this podcast, and that for me seems wild. Seems crazy that it's been 3 years I've been recording and hosting others and sharing this message. And I started this 6 years ago. I ran my first ever men's circle in a share house I was living in that time in the garage. I was at uni. I was doing all sorts, and I began on this path, and I was like into the meditation, into the yoga, into plant medicine, and beginning to open to new levels of awareness. And I realized I want deeper connection, and I'm hearing about these men's circle and men's work, and I didn't have access at the time. I didn't know anyone who was doing this. I was like, I don't know where to find men that are connected in this way. So I thought, hey, how about I just invite the men I know, the people I went to university with, and I'm like, hey, I've got an idea. And I put my hand up to do that because, well, I desired it at the time. And, a little bit of me was like, this is weird. You're going to be seen as like a bit of a woo-woo guy. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do this then. And so I did. I created my first men's group, and it was a really beautiful experience. I can't remember how many times we came together. I believe we did it weekly, but I'd say we had about 8 men there each time, which for me was like, oh my God, people are interested in this. They're willing to trust me in this. They're willing to, share what's happening for them. And since then, I've learned so much and would change so much about how I would operate that, and how I do operate that now is so different. But it was the beginning. And there's an acknowledgement of I didn't really know what I was doing, but there was a deep willingness to begin the journey. And that for me has been one of the defining features that has brought me to where I am, because there's been so many times where I haven't known how to get to where the end result or the goal is. And, I say that with some laughter because every time I've got to where I've wanted to be, there is a new goal, a new destination. And one of my continued learnings is to celebrate the achievement of that and then continue to move. Sometimes I can be like, oh, I don't slow down enough to truly celebrate. And if you do that, I encourage you to celebrate. It's going to fuel you so much more and help you on this path more than you know. And that was how I began coaching as well. I did a course. It was NLP, and I was doing it for my own growth. At the time, I was just like, how can I grow? I found out I've got a lot of wounding. I began opening to this world of healing, of breath work, of yoga, of meditation. Before that, there was quite a lot of self-harm and anxiety and depression, and something I can still work with at times where, they're my constant battle, which I look to grow and evolve through, where I'm like, oh, there's more here. And so I started doing all these courses, doing breathwork trainings. I got initiated into a Himalayan breathwork tradition. I did some holotropic breathwork. I was doing a lot of yoga and meditation at the time. I was sitting quite a few mushrooms and really beginning to open my awareness, listening to various podcasts, interviews, books, anything I could get my hand on. I was like, wow, this world, I'm in love, I'm excited, I'm enthralled by it. And there was a real passion inside of me to learn and to grow and see how much knowledge I could learn. And there was, I will admit, when I reflect, there was a grasping from the mind. There was a look to control what was happening to me because really there was quite a crumbling. I'd said I was in university at the time, and so I was an engineer at the time, studying engineering, mechanical engineering that was, and I was doing quite well in the traditional sense, high grades, and doing what most people would assume to be and go into a successful career. But internally, I wasn't doing so well. So that was what really opened me to this path. At the time, various lovers encouraged me to go to therapy. That was a best friend at the time and a previous partner. And they really encouraged me to begin opening my inner world to share what was happening for me because I hadn't known how, and it was a scary process. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do here. So it didn't really open me. I didn't feel safe enough in the space to begin to reveal what was happening. And I also didn't have the language at the time to acknowledge, hey, I'm hurting, or I feel dissociative, or I don't know how to express this. So there was a real blockage for me in beginning to open to this journey of healing. And so it wasn't until I found the other practices and modalities that I began to learn the tools and the language to begin to share my inner world and open that. And that really led me to the coaching because what I assumed was a course for myself, which was an NLP course at that time, which, if you don't know, is neuro linguistic programming. I did for myself, and it turned out to be a course which encouraged you or gave you a certification in coaching. Now, I don't know how much I agree with the here's a certification for coaching after 6 weeks, but it was what gave me the confidence or the willingness, at least, to begin to say, hey, I'm a coach and I'm helping people with this. And people were open to the idea of me coaching them, which at the time I was shocked about. I was like, who am I to be doing this? There was a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of distrust within myself of, oh, I don't feel like I have any knowledge to give. I don't know if I can actually support people. Um, Internally, there was a lot of noise, of a lot of questioning, and I just kept meeting that. I kept leaning in. I was like, cool. I did some coaching for free. Then I started charging as little as $50. I did that some of that out of the bedroom of the house I was living in at times, and it wasn't perfect. And this is a piece that I really encourage a lot of people on this path. It's like, it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have it all in order when you begin. You're going to start and you're going to have to begin sharing along the way. And there's this humbleness to be where you are, especially when we have all this online space and you can see everyone who has it. Is further along than you, or makes it look more perfect, or looks better, or has a better images or Instagram or this that can make them seem above you or further along. There can be a real humbling to begin where you are and just being like, this is where I'm at. Maybe I don't have all the expensive things, and I'm just where I am in my own journey. But for me, that was a real humbleness to begin. And at the start, there was definitely a level of ego where I tried to be further along to make myself seem like I had more knowledge because I wanted to be seen as a guy who can help people. And that's something I've really deconstructed over the last few years where I feel less need to be someone. I'm like, I'm just who I am and I serve people from that place because there's no real need to be more than I am. I know that there is people further along this path than me, and I know I'm further along than others. It's not a status symbol for me anymore. It's more of an acknowledgement and a knowing that I've got things to learn and others have things to learn as well. And some of that I can help people with, and there's other things to help me with, and that feels like a more integral way. But I began that journey to say, this is what I am here for. And everyone who I tell to like about my journey, I tell them to go onto my Instagram page and go and watch my first ever live. Because this was something that was a massive edge for me at the time where I was like, I don't know how to share, and I'm so afraid, and I know I have to. I know this is the next step. And I shared. And when I go back and watch that video, I can still see the little boy who was so deeply afraid of being seen, whose voice quivered, who shook at the thought of being judged, of questioning himself, do I have anything to share or anything of value to give to people? And I really acknowledge that little boy, and I see the little boy who is still within me in that video, and I love him so much. And though at the start I really judged that, I thought I should be further along, learning to love where I was, which was insecure, which was shy, which was really disconnected from my voice, learning to love that aspect of me was what allowed me to heal to go on to speaking and now speak on the stages that I do, because there is that little part of me that holds a lot of shame around my voice. So, really learning to love the parts of yourself along the way is something that is going to do incredible for your journey. It's not going to be allow you to get there if you're not loving all of yourself. So there's this real understanding that to get to where you want to be, you're going to have to meet yourself along the way. It's going to be your own path of becoming. And this is something I'm deeply passionate about because if you come into this work with a lot of ego and a lot of like, I'm so great, and you can't acknowledge the parts of yourself that aren't healed or that are still wounded, there is going to be a collapse. And I say this because there's been many moments within my own career and my own coaching where I've collapsed because I've tried to be further than where I am. I've tried to hold more or stretch further, and I haven't really known how to accept myself as I am. And the collapse occurs so that ego can create harmony with the soul. There's this there's this resonance that needs to be created between the two that when the ego is further ahead or saying, yeah, I'm so much further in those wounds, there's a dissonance and that needs to come into harmony, which can only happen through the fall. If you go back and listen to my podcast I did on Icarus, this explains some of the energetics that are at play here. And this is something that, you know, is completely human to want to be seen as someone, especially in the world we live in where everyone's trying to prove themselves, tell you how great they are. And especially when you come into the world of coaching, there can be this real status game because it's like, well, if you seem to have your stuff together, your shit together, well, it's more than likely people are going to buy from you. If you can make yourself up on the pedestal and make yourself seem like you're further ahead, people are going to assume that you can help them. So there's this manipulation that can occur on energetic and the uncomfortable here that can make it easier for people to buy from you if you're putting yourself up on a pedestal, but it's also going to be harder to maintain and there's going to be a lot of material for you to meet and integrate so you can come into a deeper harmony. And I'm going to say that if you're doing that, there's probably going to be a lot of nervous system dysregulation because you're not being honest with yourself and you're holding a projection for others to project onto. And you're still trying to be someone which isn't going to serve you in the long run because you will have to fall and come back home and admit where you are and then build from a more solid and true foundation. And if you're willing to just be where you are, and this is what I love about speaking, I see so many different speakers meet this in a different way. And one of my mentors, he speaks about this when people jump on stage, one of the first ways they learn to be authentic is own the feeling. It's like, hey, I'm feeling really nervous right now. And that's such a beautiful way to come into honesty with oneself. And it's what I did earlier on in this podcast. I could feel there was that part of me that was nervous, and it's like really easeful way to create openness within my own system is to own it. Because when I own it, it gets owned in the room, and no longer am I running from that. And this is what people can do on stage to create a level of openness and connection. Now, later on, you learn different ways to do that, but it's the same along the coaching journey where you're actually owning, oh, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what's happening for me right now. And it creates a level of openness and safety because you're owning your current experience, which is very, very healthy. You're not trying to be more than you are, and you're just admitting where you are, which is beautiful. And so for me, since saying yes to those different experiences, the men's group I started, which lasted only a few months, and saying yes to taking on coaching clients, they were some of the initial prompts I got that were my next steps. And one of the pieces that really I see a lot of people fall for is they're looking 10 steps ahead and they need to take the next step. And, I look back on my own journey, and some of the next steps were like creating the coaching Instagram page, naming myself as a coach, putting out a post and saying, hey guys, I'm coaching right now. Others were like running a workshop or a men's circle or starting this podcast or applying to speak on stages. But at the start, I didn't know the end result. The journey and the vision has continued to evolve into what it is now, and it's even growing now to next stages. And this is the real piece. It's like you don't know where this is going to go. If you're trying to work it all out and control it all and try and have it all perfect, you're going to suffocate the aliveness and the vision that would grow like a seed. The true ability to steward your vision, if you're someone who is like, I want to coach and I want to build a business and I want to create, well, that your ability to steward that in real time over time is going to be your greatest gift. If you're trying to like make it quicker or do it quicker, it's really, or like force it or control it or know how it's going to look and probably going to suffocate it because you're not going to be able to listen to the aliveness ways to shape and change it. Now, how I operate with my creations is they're a live entity. The Wyrd Way podcast, I treat it as an entity. It has its own energetics, its own field of being. Those of you who listen to this are helping me create that field, but it lives outside of me. It's the same when I host a container or the retreat I'm doing. It's their its own container, and I'm needing to listen to, hey, how do I tend this? How do I create this? How do I meet this so that I can come into co-creation with the event and the people that are joining me within it? And this is such a beautiful thing. It's like if I wasn't listening to all those questions that I was getting asked while I was down in Melbourne of how did I get here, I wouldn't be running this podcast right now, which is probably going to land for quite a few people because they're like, oh my God, this is how he got there. And in doing that, I create a level of attunement to certain people within this field. Now, if I just had, this is the way I'm doing it, this is the next podcast, this is it, I'm probably going to miss some of that, and people aren't going to feel as connected or invested within the podcast because it's like, well, he's not listening to his audience. And it feels like a little bit disrespectful because I treat this as a relationship. And if we're in a healthy relationship with anything, our business, our relationship, our work, money, like it's got to be, if we're in a relationship. That would be one of the pieces that I would really encourage you if you're walking this path or beginning to go down it. Be in relationship to it. Be in relationship to your next steps because you probably know what they are, even if they scare you, even if there's some uncertainty within your being. And it may not make sense. There's been pieces I've done that haven't made sense for business perspective. I've been trying to grow business, and then it's like this men's retreat I need to go to. I don't know why, but that's where I need to go. And then from on the other side of that, I see that connected me with other men who were doing this work, who were creating in a similar way. It led me to facilitating retreats, to hosting weekly meditations, to, meeting a community of men that many of which who have worked with me. And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know what the universe was trying to lead me to. but there was a part of me that knew what the next step was. At times, that has been working with particular coaches and mentors that have really opened the path for me and helped me see, oh, this is what it takes to grow and evolve. And so, for those of you who are doing something similar, this is maybe what it takes as well. You may not know what the next step after the next step is yet. And this is where you really need to watch your mind. And for many of you, this may be what really suffocates you in this process is the intensity of the mind trying to work it all out or know the next steps and work it all out before you've taken any. And this can be very draining and taxing on your energy because you're too many steps ahead. You're not present with what is and you're not creating from the present space. And so if you can come back to the now and let go, if it's like, cool, this is what I need to go do it, let go, and then see what happens. Maybe it is to have that conversation with a mentor and be like, yo, I know I'm meant to work with you. How does that look? To actively engage with that. And one of my mentors, he really points this part home where he says, when we're in conversation with people, we're also in conversation with the universe. And this is a piece I love because sometimes, even if it's not the right person we're having the conversation with, what we're doing is having that larger conversation with the universe that is telling it, hey, I want more of this. I want more of this engagement. I want more of this experience. I really want to open and continue open to this. So really do that. And that's what a lot of my actions have been. They haven't been a clear plan of this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to do. There's been little pieces along the way that have always guided me to the next step, whether that was the next mentor, the next tangible step in my physical reality. Like some of it has been very business orientated, learning sales, learning marketing, learning how to invoke value and create that for people. Others have been more spiritually inclined, go into plant medicine, sit in ceremony, go into certain courses that have been for my own development, which has led on to other development within myself and my business. It has also meant creating offerings for my own work, to putting it out there and saying, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm sharing, and really committing to that and allowing it to be whatever it wants to be so I can learn from that experience because this is something that is so powerful and so needed to just say, yeah, this is what I'm doing. So after, I did the men group and I did the first coaching, I did a number of different mentorships. I did other coaching. I'm really fast tracking this here because I really feel like I'm sharing the themes, and there's been pivotal moments that have really changed my trajectory. Like bigger experiences such as my vision quest, which was really changed the trajectory, a different relationship, the ending of relationships, all of these things. And I say these things, these pieces, because they're so important to acknowledge that one thing affects everything. Like we are an interconnected being. And it's really hard, especially if you're doing this from the energetical, spiritual side of things, to hold and maintain distance. If you're struggling in one area, it's probably going to affect another area. Even if you've got good boundaries, even if you're still focused, there's an energetic tax within that is going to take from you a little bit. And that's okay. You can still move towards what you want. But when you're able to create coherence in that space, it's going to serve you in every areas. So my encouragement within this is to really follow the thread. There's a beautiful poem by William Stafford, and I really wish I could just speak this off the top of my head. I'm not going to be able to do that, but it says, follow the thread. And whatever you do, don't let go of the thread. If you don't let go of the thread, you cannot get lost. You will grow old, you will hurt others, and whatever you do, don't let go of the thread. And that's how I kind of tend to this. There is a thread that we are meant to follow, that we are here to share our work with and do certain tasks that really is going to allow us to grow and evolve. And if you are to do one thing, it's really commit to your own evolution, especially if you're to be a mentor or someone in service to other. As you grow, there's an energetic uh, model that you create for others. As you go through your own initiation, you're creating that energetic threshold to enter into. And that's what they feel when they enter your field. And maybe on an episode, I can break down more of the energetics of container holding and pieces like this. It's really interesting stuff. But as you walk your path, you're going to create an energetic wake that allows others to follow you. And a leader isn't someone who sits out front and tells everyone what to do. He's the one who's going first, who's willing to put himself on the line. And so if you're waiting for someone else to do it or come to you or tell you everything's going to be okay, my advice is go for it because no one is going to come do it for you. No one is going to take the burden of responsibility from yourself. You're going to have to be the one who takes the steps and moves towards what you want. And in that, you get to create the change you want. So, this is just a bit of insight into what brought me here. My time in Melbourne was felt like the accumulation and the ownership of my status as a speaker. Even though I've been speaking on stages for 3 years, my comfortability with speaking this time really landed the fact that I am a speaker. And like I said, this was a 3 year journey to really feel the impact of that and see how that ripples out. The feedback I got from, friends at the event, the audience, and all of that really landed this plane for me. And that took 3 years. It took 6 years from me beginning to coach people to get to that point. And this is one of the beautiful things that along the way, we're going to grow so much. And if you continue to grow and evolve along your own path, it's going to lead you to where you're meant to be. So if you're looking at me and asking how he got there, a big piece is just following the next steps and continuing my own evolution and saying yes to the things that have terrified me. And this is probably one of the last pieces that I will leave on. Fear is one of the pieces that has guided me so deeply. I've been terrified along this path so many times. It's terrified me to do so much of what I've done. And every time it has showed me my capacity, my ability to grow, my ability to meet adversity and continue on to the other side and show how great I truly am. And I don't mean that from an egoic point, and I do as well, because it's like, cool, own my greatness, but also from the perception that I am a part of God. I am a part of spirit. I am a soul incarnate. And from that, I get to live and share my greatness. And so do all of us. Our greatness does not diminish that of others. It helps us enhance it and show everyone how great we can be. So, my friends, if you are walking this path, please walk it proudly. Please walk it deeply. Please allow yourself to share your greatness because the world needs it. It wants it. It deserves it. And I'm here backing you. Saying this as I land back here in Gold Coast, Tambourine Mountain, I am going to be opening a few mentorships. So this is something I'm sharing at the end for those of you who are like, hey, I actually want to get into this work. I want to know what's next. For some of you, that's going to be the retreat raw, especially men who are wanting to connect with other men on this path and continue deepening into themselves. Now, for those of you who are also creating or building something, my mentorship is probably the space for you because this is where I work with people on the energetic levels of, hey, like let's unpack the unconscious level and layers that is happening for you, as well as learning what the next action steps are you. I work on that double-edged sword where it's like we're looking internally to see what you need to process and what you need to move through and any blocks and energies that need to move so you can act in alignment, so you can create in alignment, and you can continue to build the vision that you're here for. So I've got a limited number of those available. If you're interested in that, in the show notes, you can book a call with me, or you can send me a DM on Instagram and we can have a chat for that. I've only got a limited number of spots right now, and once they're gone, it'll be a little while, probably another 3 months before I open those up again as well, because that's the minimum amount of time I work with people. So if you're interested in that, hit me in the DMs, click on the link below and book a call, and we can have a chat to see if that's something that aligns for you and continues to support you and the building of your vision. Wyrd Way, this is Dean Bentley. It's a pleasure to be back. You have a beautiful, beautiful day.